A lot of conservatives and all media are lambasting President Biden for withdrawing our troops from Afghanistan. And I just want to say God bless Joe Biden for finally withdrawing our troops from Afghanistan. Thank God Joe Biden is president and that we have been able to remove our troops from Afghanistan. I was against the Afghan war since it started when I was about 20 years old, okay? Or maybe I was a little bit younger, maybe I was like 17 or 18. I was against the Afghan war since before it started because I saw it being another Vietnam. And this video is going to carry into how we have an artificial scarcity-based economy fueled by capitalism. But first I want to explain. We had accomplished nothing but the spending of trillions of our dollars building and rebuilding and building and rebuilding and making sure that Afghan girls could get educations and making sure that they had an adequate military and making sure we could supply their military with U.S. made and funded helicopters and other planes and things like that. And you have a military with an air force. The Taliban didn't have an air force. We all know from the Blitzkrieg method of warfare that the air force is pretty much the most important thing when it comes to waging war. Now we do have some changes now with the ground fighting being more important in some ways. But the fact of the matter is there was no desire to hold on to the territory of Afghanistan by the Afghan military, okay? And I don't really care that Afghanistan fell to the Taliban. I mean, I remember I thought it was funny because there were a lot of like gung-ho warmongering conservatives when we first started the initial invasion of Afghanistan that were so proud. They're like, we bombed Afghanistan back into the Stone Age. Where the hell were they before we started bombing them? The Bronze Age? I mean, what the... Like, give me a break. Give me a frickin' break. It was such a waste. It was a waste of money just to bomb the country. In my opinion, in my opinion, it was a waste of money simply to even have a military campaign against Afghanistan when we could have simply, and what's funny is a lot of people don't know this. I only know it because I used to watch a show on National Geographic called CIA Confidential. God, I miss good programming. But on CIA Confidential, we knew since George W. Bush was president where Osama bin Laden was because the CIA followed him to the Pakistani border and wanted a bunch of airborne units and Rangers to intercept him before he got into Pakistan. And George Bush goes, I want to work on my diplomacy. I got to work on my diplomacy. I mean, it's completely mind-bogglingly stupid, the fact that we've wasted as much time as we did in Afghanistan. One of the primary reasons I voted for Donald Trump in 2016 was he promised to take our troops the hell out of Afghanistan as soon as he took office. What do you know? He didn't take our troops out of Afghanistan. What do you know? The guy before him that promised the same thing didn't take our troops out of Afghanistan. Who took our troops out of Afghanistan? Joe Biden. Joe Biden took our troops out of Afghanistan because he recognized he was against a number of troop surges. If I remember correctly, he was against a lot of things involving Afghanistan when he was a senator. He was the only one with the courage to speak out against this crap while he was in the Senate. And he was the only one with the courage to understand that this 20-something years of being in this region was not getting us anywhere. At least not anywhere that we could, it wasn't benefiting the United States, and it was basically a financial black hole that we kept throwing our domestic money and resources. All these people that are talking about defund the police, build community centers, defund the police, do more of this and do more of that, we wouldn't have to defund the police to build community centers if we simply were never engaged in the Afghani conflict. Think about the trillions of dollars. Think about how many community centers could have been built with that. Think about how many potholes could have been filled with that. Think about how many education. Think about if that money was put towards education, either higher or, how many kids could go to college on $1 trillion, trillions of dollars, actually. Give me a frickin' break. But this also gets into how we have a false sense of scarcity, a false scarcity-based economy based off of capitalism is what it's based off of. It's the fear of not having when we live in abundance. And this brings me back to that thing called the Venus Project, although I had my own views towards this long before I discovered the Venus Project. And what's his name? Jacques Fresco or whatever his name is. But when I was made aware of Jacques Fresco and the Venus Project, it simply made me very pleased that somebody was actually doing what I had said and what people like Lyndon LaRouche had promoted in many ways. But the point is we have an artificial sense of scarcity that has been removed by technology. All this idea that the world is overpopulated and we don't have enough food and we don't have enough water and we don't have this and we don't have that, it's all baloney. And the reason I'm bringing this up is a lot of people are concerned about the 80,000 Afghanis that are going to be coming here. Afghani refugees, like school teachers and things like that. I welcome them, honestly. I welcome them because you know what? The white population recently dropped, as we knew it would. Anybody with a brain knew it would. And the concept of the replacement theory is not a theory. It is really happening. It's measurable. We all know it. But the thing is, with the Afghans, they will obviously bring probably a lot more conservative values to the United States. The ones that are not crazy. What worries me is the fact that it's going to be rushed, and we're probably going to get a lot of people we don't want to get coming in here, but they will be bringing with them certain values that are not present in the United States. And I know everybody's like, well, Afghanistan has a, generally speaking, low IQ. Yes, that's true. The Afghanis, generally speaking, are a very low IQ'd people. But as I've said in previous videos, IQ isn't everything. Values are also genetic, as are behaviors. And I think what you need to look at is the people of this country need to understand that we need to embrace more conservative values, and the best way to do that is to change the population. That's also why I welcome Hispanics. I think it's hilarious that everybody thinks that the influx of Hispanics is somehow a negative. In some ways it is, but the fact of the matter is, California, who is a majority-minority state, which is liberal, okay? California is a liberal state, but what did the Hispanics get rid of? Statewide affirmative action. Why? Because they didn't like that they were being treated unfairly compared to African Americans. So the thing is, what you have to understand, and I'll leave a link to the article. Dr. Pierce did an excellent radio address about it by a guy named Dr. Stephen Steinlight. The other positive about an influx of Afghanis and an influx of Hispanics is that they don't have this Holocaust guilt. Like, I don't even understand the Holocaust guilt. And I'm going to leave a link to Joy Behar interviewing Helen Thomas about this ridiculous Holocaust guilt. My grandfather fought a war because of the alleged Holocaust, okay? The millions and millions of U.S. soldiers, French soldiers, English soldiers, uh, Soviet soldiers, etc., died because of the so-called Holocaust. Okay? And the fact of the matter is, if you were a white American descended from white Americans that fought in World War II, why the hell should you have any Holocaust guilt? And that's the thing, is they promote this, but this is not present in the Afghani people, and it is not present, and the Afghani people, I'll get into this in a second, and it's not present in the Hispanic people. And the reason why is because the Afghani people are predominantly Islamic, and you also have a lot of Latin Americans that understand certain things about a certain group of people. And they don't have Holocaust guilt because they see a certain group of people as Christ killers. And they're not happy about that. And that's how they were raised by their traditions, okay? And I think that having more Hispanics and having more Afghanis, as long as they're civil and can be civilized and can be naturalized properly and be made to embrace Western values, I think what you will see is you will see the foreign policies of the United States change from these kooky foreign policies, the Israel first policies like we saw under Trump, back toward, why don't we take our resources and our military back to the United States and use these things as they were meant to be used for, to build up the United States, to have things like socialized medicine, to have things like adequate socialized education. Yeah, we have education in the United States. You ever talk to a kid that's under 40? You ever talk to anyone under 40 about anything of any worth? And even people in their 40s, they're practically stupid. I mean, they're not learning anything in school. I'm amazed at how much basic science, basic things that people don't know. And I never even went to school. Like I said, I got thrown out of mainstream school in 3rd grade. I was in schools for delinquents. And I know more than the average person my age. I know oodles more. Of course, I have a desire to learn things. But my point is that maybe if we focused more on our country and our people and putting those resources into our country, I'm very pleased with Ilhan Omar. I think Ilhan Omar puts America first. I really do. I don't think you can say that she puts Somalia first. At least I haven't seen anything like that. I'm very pleased with Ilhan Omar's performance as a in the House or the Senate. I forget. Is she a senator? I think she's a senator. As you can tell, I don't follow Miss Omar that much. I did follow her on Twitter, but I'm very pleased with many of the statements she's made and things of that nature. And I think that that's what we need to look at. Is we need to look at what is a net positive for the functioning of this country. It's far more than IQ. There is far more involved in the proper functioning of a nation than it simply being high IQ'd. Italy, for some reason, I don't know where they're hiding it, but for whatever reason, Italy has an average higher IQ than other European nations. Again, I don't know where they're hiding it, but my point is that both England and Italy have high IQs. Their countries aren't really that fantastic now, are they? Okay? So, I mean, you got to look at it, Italy is basically the Mexico of Europe. Or is that Spain? I forget which is which sometimes. Maybe I need a geography lesson because I went to mainstream schools in the United States. Just joking. So, again, getting back to the scarcity-based economy and the Venus Project, as I've noted, desalination for water procurement, 100% water reclamation, as is practiced in some areas like Nevada, and also urban agriculture, skyscrapers full of vegetables, basically. You can harvest the vegetables, a la in the the multi-level farms, vertical farming. But I mean, you don't need too many skyscrapers full of produce to feed more than a whole state. And that's the thing, is we are farming in an obsolete manner. I think there needs to be far more encouragement of veganism, not only from a nutritional standpoint and a sustainability standpoint, but also from the situation that we're currently experiencing with the unmentionable thing that shall not be mentioned. These cross-species viruses. I mean, Christ, you have swine flu, avian flu, the unspeakable thing that shall not be spoken of. Okay, we have all of these issues. They're always traced back to something with animals. Okay, so we need to get into pushing veganism, pushing cultured meats, the 3D printed tissue, muscle tissue, like bovine muscle tissue, porcine muscle tissue, avian muscle tissue, etc. We can make it. In fact, Israel, it's one of the things I actually praise Israel about. Israel is actually doing this now. They're at the forefront of making this cheap, sustainable meat out of the muscular cells of various types of animal. And I think that's a wonderful idea. I think that when you really take a look at the waste of land on agriculture, on especially animal agriculture, but all agriculture when it's not necessary, when you can grow things hydroponically in agricultural skyscrapers. One of the other things people talk about, rice and how rice has arsenic. Rice doesn't need to have arsenic. I guarantee you could figure out a way to grow rice, because where's the arsenic coming from in rice? From the crust of the earth is where it comes from. It has to do with the rice paddies and how the arsenic dissolves into the water and then goes right up into the plant, and then the arsenic gets in the rice. Now, I still eat rice. I don't think it's a big whoop-de-doo. But my point is, because I've looked at the research, and it doesn't seem to increase the risk of cancer in anybody, at least not drastically. It's almost statistically non-existent, and it's only one form of cancer. I forget which one. I think it might be stomach cancer, but it's a very tiny increase. And what's funny is the consumption of whole grains like rice reduces the risk of all-cause mortality. Again, I'm not a doctor, etc. Don't take what I'm saying as medical advice. Look up your own nonsense, blah, 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 myplate.gov, yada, yada, yada. My point is that you are being led to believe by capitalists that, oh my God, everything is scarce. You can't function. You have to be paranoid. You have to panic buy. There's not enough of everything for people. There is, what's funny is that mantra, there's enough for everyone's need, but not everyone's greed, is an accurate statement. And this is why I promote a mixed system of necessities being socialist and things like luxury items, even beef. You could have, if you're going to have beef, make it a luxury item, okay? Not everybody needs to have everything. If you want fancy schmancy stuff, get a job and work for it. But there is more than enough resources to feed, clothe, and shelter everyone in the United States, especially if we focus on the United States. After we focus on the United States, maybe then we can worry about other countries. That's all for this video. Check the links in the description. That was a nice rant, huh?